Hey, what's going on, guys? Justin Melson here with Happy Fox Productions, and today I want to talk to you guys really quick about the differences between expensive gear and inexpensive gear, and why would you want to buy expensive gear over inexpensive gear, or vice versa, and is it worth the money? And in a nutshell, I feel like we all know usually when you buy something more expensive, it's usually better for the most part. If you buy an expensive car, it's usually a sports car or a Range Rover or something. If you buy a more expensive house, it's usually a nice house for some particular reason. That's usually how it is. With film and video, it's the same thing, except sometimes you could buy something that's really expensive, but it's not necessary. Or you could buy something very cheap, and it probably wasn't necessary to buy something that cheap. You should have probably bought something more expensive. And the way I usually break it down is through just usually personal experiences. I have a good example for you guys. All right, so here is a fluid head. It is, oh my gosh, there's hair all over it. See, this thing's been stored away. It's got cat hair all over it. But this is a really cheap fluid head. I think I got this for $90 back in the day. And it served me well. You know, I used my T2i on it. It was good. But it was definitely very cheap. And this was a fancier FT717. Sounds like an airplane, like a 747 or something. But yeah, it's really cool, but it's not that great. And it broke, it was wobbly. It broke actually within a few months of owning it. And I actually just had to deal with it. I just had to deal with a broken fluid head for years because I never really saved up more money to buy a more professional grade fluid head. So eventually I ended up buying this Manfrotto. I think this is the 502 HD. This one, I don't know the weight capacity of it. I really don't remember all the specs. I just know this one fit the needs for me. So I could fit my Blackmagics or whenever I camera op or anything. I could fit all that stuff on this one. Bottom line is I've had this and I've used it a lot and I haven't once had an issue with it. And the price difference is pretty noticeable. There's a pretty noticeable price difference between the two fluid heads, but had I just saved the extra money and bought this, I would have just been way happier. And I wouldn't have wasted, well, I didn't waste, but I wouldn't have thrown $90 at that other fluid head had I just saved up an extra $100 to $200 to buy a more professional grade system, then I would have been better off. And that's the same thing with tripods. All right, so this probably doesn't fit in the frame, but here's a big tripod. This is a Rivioli tripod, Trivoli, I don't remember what it is, but this one is about $250. And I'll tell you the exact mind frame I had when I bought this. I was a sophomore in high school, and I said, I need a new tripod. And I saw this one, and it was cheap, and it was silver, and it was really big looking, and it was really heavy. And I said, wow, I'll look really professional if I have a really big tripod. So I bought that one. And was it a mistake? No, I got a lot of good use out of it. But now as I'm older, I'm 21 now, and I'm not 14, I know maybe I shouldn't have gotten that. Because I bought that tripod, I've had a lot of equipment almost break on me because of it. And here's why. The fluid head broke. I'm sorry, not the fluid head. The quick release adapter broke. The camera fell off. Luckily, the camera didn't break. It's okay. But because I spent $250 on this cheap tripod, that would have cost me a $2,000 camera plus whatever lenses and everything were on it. Another example where I actually did drop the camera was when we were filming The Last Hotspot. We were filming a scene where we were out in the desert and everything, and I had this camera, I had my Blackmagic Cinema camera with a Sigma 10 to 18 or something lens on there, decent lens, like a $700 lens, something around there. So I had a good $3,000 sitting on my tripod, and the leg collapsed, and the entire thing fell over. And luckily the lens was okay, because it wasn't my lens, it was my friend's lens, but my camera got messed up. It's not broken, but there's a giant dent in my Blackmagic now. So cosmetically, my camera's damaged, so I could sell it, but I have to sell it at a significantly lower price now, and now it's not as attractive anymore, it's a little deformed, but it's all right. I mean, the internal camera parts weren't damaged, but that could have been way worse. And because I have a cheaper tripod, that happened. Now, I should have taken more careful. I should have just been with the camera the entire time, so I blame myself too. I kind of walked away from the tripod, and then it fell over. What you gonna do? But that just goes to show having better gear, spending the extra money on the gear goes a long way. And another example for that is glass and lenses. There's a reason you could buy a Nifty 50 or Plastic Fantastic or a Canon 50 1.8 for $100. And then there's a difference, you could buy the 1.2 for it 1,000? I don't know how much that lens is, but you're paying for quality and you're paying for the optics. So there's a difference when you're shooting on Canon L glass versus non-Canon L glass, where you can notice a big difference when you're shooting on Canon L glass versus some Cooke S4s or some Arri Master Primes. You're gonna notice a big difference, not even optically, but the way they're engineered. There's a reason those lenses could cost 40 grand a lens and a Canon lens could cost $1 grand a lens, because there's so much engineering put into the lens, you know, the focus throw, all the optics, all the chromatic aberrations, focus breathing, all of that kind of stuff goes into it. And so you're paying for that. So when you're watching a big theatrical movie, you're not saying, wow, that was really distracting while the lens is doing that. You're just enjoying a movie. But if you're had a $100 lens on that camera and you're blowing it up for everyone to see on a big theatrical screen, people might notice, hey, this doesn't look too good, unless you're going for that kind of look. But bottom line is, when you pay for quality, you get quality. And another example, and I have so many examples of this, and this one is the worst one. My equipment got drowned out. I was filming, I think, a vlog for YouTube years ago, and I had all my gear laid out in the grass. I didn't think anything could go wrong. But the sprinklers turned on and all my gear got drowned. Literally, like all the sprinklers turned on at the same time. My tripods, my microphones, my cameras, lenses, everything was drowned. I ran, got everything out in the middle of the street, and I was at a park. I wasn't even in the backyard or anything. Luckily, my more expensive gear lived. In fact, a lot of my gear lived because, granted, I try to invest in quality stuff, but had I had really cheap glass, really bad microphones, really cheap stuff, I'm sure that stuff would have been damaged. Stuff that's not weather sealed. But luckily I had good lens, good cameras, things were in their cases. That goes to show when you buy something cheap, it might not come with a case. So everything plays into, everything just kind of plays into each other. Even when you travel, people are throwing stuff into the plane, your gear's gonna get bounced around. So that's the difference between spending the extra $500 or not spending it. You don't always have to buy the most expensive thing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying go to B&H and change it from featured to sort by highest price or something like that. Like, don't do that, because then you'll end up buying a $5,000 Miller fluid head that you don't need if you're shooting on a DSLR, or maybe even something just slightly big, like C100. You might not need that. But I'm saying, if you're investing in something and you know there's something better that you could need, but you don't want to spend that money now, my advice is, me personally, I would wait and actually buy the better thing. And that's the same thing I learned with my computer, that if you guys had seen, I built this computer behind me and it was a pretty beefy expense, and I could have cut down a third of the expense. This computer, not to throw out money, but it was about $4,000 to build, but I spent about $1,100 to $1,200 on the CPU that I put in the computer, because I think I put like a 5960X in there or something along that. And I could have had like a 5820K from Intel, which is about, maybe goes for $250 now, $300. But I could have shaved off a lot of money, but I knew, hey, this processor might come in handy one day, so I have to bite the bullet and spend the extra $700 on that CPU, which actually saved my butt big time about 2 months ago when I was rushing this deadline to the last, I'm talking minute, to get to this news network. I was working by the minute, and luckily my CPU was able to render footage just that much faster, and I was able to meet the deadline for the network. Had I got the 5820K, I would have probably not made the deadline, and I wouldn't want to know what would happen. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video was able to teach you guys something about buying gear. I just kind of wanted to put my years of making mistakes on buying cheaper products and just kind of put it all into one video. And again, don't let what I said persuade you into always having to buy the top of the line stuff. That's not what I'm trying to do. I just kind of wanted to put everything in a nutshell, like, hey, I've made some bad choices buying cheaper stuff where I ultimately have to end up buying the more expensive product, where I could have just bought the more expensive product in the first place and saved a little bit of money by buying the cheaper thing. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.